It's the NFL Conference Championship playoff preview and divisional round recap on the Schatz and Tanier NFL podcast from FTN Fantasy. Hey, I'm Aaron Schatz from ftnfantasy.com/DVOA. He is Mike Tanier from themessenger.com, and it is January 22nd of 2024. And we are here to break down the divisional round, 4 games, and a couple of good ones. And then we are going to give you a little bit of our preview thoughts on the conference championships. So let's start with, what I think is one of these all-time classics. Like most of these Bills-Chiefs games, they're all like all-time classics. Last night with the Chiefs beating the Bills by 3 points, I will start by saying I feel kind of bad for the Bills fans.
Yeah.
I know we all want to celebrate how amazing Mahomes is and the amazing things that Kansas City has done over the last 6 years. And that's fantastic. And I realize it's weird for me to say this as a Patriots fan because Lord knows we've had our share of success. But I feel kind of like, the Kansas City fans have they've had it pretty good. Like give some to somebody else. Like let somebody else have some fun. So
literally what everyone said for 20 years about the Patriots.
Yeah. But at least the Patriots didn't do as much in a row. Like they had that period where they would like make it, and then they'd have a couple of years where they were like losing in the divisional round, and then they'd make it again. And it's just for the Bills to have another field goal wide right, even though that was just to tie it.
Yes.
If they make that field goal, Mahomes comes back and Butker kicks a field goal and the Chiefs win, right? We both agree on this.
I think so, and yet it's so poetic that wide right again.
Yeah, Camden Cap says, even as a Chiefs fan, I hated that ending for the Bills.
That's good. That's actualized. I like that.
And Bill Houston says announcers should be banned from even saying wide right during Bills games. I don't like the Bills, and even I feel that trauma.
Did you do you remember the Scott Norwood kick?
No, because I was not a football fan at that point. I watched it, right? Because everybody used to watch the Super Bowl. But I was not a football fan until Parcells showed up here, which is like 93, 94.
My college roommate was from Erie, PA, and grew up a Bills fan.
My dad's hometown, yeah.
And we were there watching that game. And if I'm remembering correctly, I hope I'm not misremembering, they kept cutting in for updates from the Gulf War during the game, or at least early in the game. It was a very strange vibe, but you're in the dormitories and you're drinking beers and you got a like invested fan there. And the game is not going the way you think it's going to go, but you have this chance to win at the end. And I think I chuckled a little bit and nearly got my ass kicked then at how it went down at the end there. But it was sort of generation defining. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I guess all the kids from Erie go to college in Philadelphia.
That's right. Your dad went to Nova, is that correct?
My dad went to Haverford.
Well, it's either Mercyhurst or Gannon in Erie. Those are the two colleges. I think they're both parochial, so maybe not for everyone. But you want to escape that town, I think.
The parochial schools are not for the rabbis in training like my father.
I don't think Mercyhurst had a rabbinical program. I'm guessing. Don't want to stereotype, but I think that's the case.
So the Bills, they played an interesting game because they'd really depended on the run, and they had a very high success rate, but it was mostly not because of Cook. It was mostly on runs by Allen and Ty Johnson.
Yes.
And they had a very low average depth of target, and Allen kept himself very within himself until the final drive. He launched it to Diggs, and Diggs dropped it.
Yes.
And then those last 2 throws. What do you think about the last 2 throws? The one to the end zone where he was Chris Jones hit him, and so therefore that went off. And then the next one over that, which was kind of thrown away.
I want to look at them again on the coach's film by myself without Tony Romo telling me everything that was being done wrong at that point. Because Romo really wanted to win that playoff game for the 2014 Cowboys or whatever in his brain, and he's making those decisions. So I don't know. And up until that point, Allen was within himself except that he was scrambling like the second coming of Jim Brown meets Michael Vick. And not just was he scrambling, but he was doing these improvisational plays to keep that offense going. Nothing really schemed up was going very well for the Bills at that point. So
No, the Chiefs, by the way, by DVOA, the Chiefs way outplayed the Bills. Like 98% post-game win expectancy.
that's shocking.
Because they outgained the Bills 7.7 yards per play to 4.7 yards per play.
Now, doesn't total plays also come into the...
It does for post-game win expectancy, but that is such an incredible advantage.
Right.
And then the fumbles, right? Kansas City lost a fumble. Buffalo fumbled twice, but recovered both of them.
Yes.
And it just came out with the Chiefs just way outplayed the Bills. The Bills had a lot of plays, and their success rate was good, but the Chiefs had 8 plays of 20 or more yards, and the Bills had none.
Wow. And if Mecole doesn't touchback fumble, and the Chiefs go up 2 scores right there, then you're looking at this. This isn't an all-time classic now. This is it looks like the Bills couldn't get done when they had to. You know, they stall. They have a fake punt that doesn't go their way. They don't stop them, etc.
So I don't remember, what is your position on the touchback fumble rule? I know you've written about the sort of historic nature of it, that it's like left over from the rugby days, the early days of football. But
I am declaring war on Threads about this. I am a absolute hater of the rule. It is too much of a gotcha. It is too regressive, I guess, for want of a better term. And I think if you fumble out of bounds at the goal line, it should be a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, I think 20 yards, but we're basically thinking the same thing.
Right, to prevent holy roller nonsense and to still make it like this is a kind of a foolish decision to kind of go like this with the ball at that point. But
penalty and loss of down.
Yes. Yeah, loss of down too.
I mean, I have another idea for people who say, you know, this is the only rule that favors the defense. Why can't there be any rules that favor the defense? I have another idea, which is the defense gets the ball at the spot of the fumble.
Okay.
You don't get 20 yards.
Right.
If the guy fumbles on the 1, you get the ball on the 1.
Right.
And you've got to get yourself out, because any defense will take that, right? Mm-hmm. Any defense would still, even though your expected points on the 1 are negative, any defense will take a fumble on the 1 any day of the week. Like, just give us the ball, right? So, yeah, you get the ball, but you don't get 20 yards. You don't get to get out of the shadow of the goalposts. You have to take it on the 1. It's
such a get out of jail free card. And often it is caused by nothing. Now, I think that fumble was forced. That fumble was forced. Somebody called Hardman. There are so many cases where it's just, the guy's reaching for the pylon and it's like the defense does nothing. If you want to make rules for the defense, make rules for the defense where the defense actually accomplishes something. The defense in many of these cases does nothing. It does less than nothing. It let the team get to the goal line and then gets a reward for it. I cannot abide by it.
So Mike Roosh asks, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Mike. I know people say the cap isn't real, but the Bills are $44 million over the cap. Where do they go from here? You should live in Boston and listen to Mike Felger. Mike Felger is the leader of the Cap is Not Real club.
Oh, you should probably teach him some mathematics then so he can learn real things.
Just because he does not follow the New Orleans Saints. The Bills are in a terrible salary cap position.
Yeah.
So Allen's cap number for next year is $47 million. Mm-hmm. Diggs is $28 million. Mm-hmm. Miller, who has nothing left, is $24 million. Right. And even if they cut him with a post June 1st, they only save $7 million.
Right. You're not going to save that money off of Von Miller's back. You're going to save it off of possibly a Diggs trade, possibly and some extensions of guys who are worth extending.
Allen, some kind of restructure for Allen that's got to drop his number.
Here are some of their free agents that they will lose if they can't take care of. So remember, you can cut down and we got to $5 million under the cap. We're great. Here are the players you're likely to lose in that case. Micah Hyde, Leonard Floyd, Daquan Jones, Jordan Phillips, Linval Joseph, Poona Ford, Dane Jackson, Tyler Rapp, AJ Epinesa, Shaq Lawson, Gabe Davis. So
it's like most of their defense.
Yes.
And Gabe Davis.
And 1 or 2 other stray guys on offense, Scherfeld, for example. So there's no way to parse this. And you can look at some of those guys and say, well, Epinesa was never that good a player, and Floyd is 30-something, and he's more of a,
Their depth is going to be, their defensive depth next year is
Right.
going to be awful.
Yeah. So I was saying, if Diggs is mad, and Diggs is probably mad right now, Diggs is probably scrubbing his Instagram or something as we speak, try and do a Tyreek Hill trade. Get rid of his salary, get some picks, and say, Josh Allen's, he's fine. He's had one of his better seasons, I think, in my opinion, right now. He's going to be good for the next 5-6 years. Start retooling.
Right. When I say that the Bills, that this was their best chance, I mean of this Bills team, right?
Yes.
What's going to happen is they're going to need a year or two to reset.
Yes.
But they have Allen for the next decade.
Yes.
So there will be another Bills window, but it's going to be a different window.
Right.
With a different number one receiver and different defensive players, except for Terrell Bernard. And like, there's going to be like different.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's very tricky. It'll be interesting to see how this general manager and this coach who had all the answers moving up, how they adjust on the fly.
So the Chiefs go on to Baltimore to face the Baltimore Ravens, who played not well in the first half of that game. And then the Ravens showed up in the second, right? Because I was like, in the first half, I was like, the Ravens are getting out. People were like, if the Texans didn't have that punt return touchdown, the Ravens would be winning. I'm like, yes, but the Ravens have 3.7 yards per play.
Yes.
The Ravens would have been winning, but the Ravens were getting outplayed at halftime. And then the Ravens showed up.
Yes. Yes.
So the Ravens now have a weighted DVOA of 55%. Okay. They are the first team to ever be above 50% as of the end of the divisional round.
Ever in 45 years.
Ever in 43 years, yes.
43 years. 2007 Patriots, no.
No.
Dallas Cowboys,
no. They declined as the end of the year. 96 Packers, no.
85 Bears,
91 no. Redskins were not this high. The 85 Bears were not this high at this point in the season. Now, I'm leaving out teams that lost.
Oh.
So if you just consider teams that were still alive after the divisional round.
Right.
10 of the top 13 won the Super Bowl.
Wow.
But one of the ones that didn't was the 2020 Bills, who lost to
the Chiefs.
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Yeah.
So, the Ravens have 4 games over 50% in the last 6 games. And one of the ones that was not over 50% had Tyler Huntley in a rainstorm.
Right.
So they're just absurdly good over the last month and a half. And yet we all have the sneaking suspicion, as do the odds makers in Vegas, that Mahomes has magic. I mean, as Eric Eager said last night, everybody who builds a model is going to have to now consider the same thing that the NBA people have to consider.
Which is?
Right? NBA people who build a playoff model have to build in their model playoff LeBron.
Okay.
Right? That the Lakers keep going on and getting like 7 seeds. And then in the playoffs, LeBron becomes LeBron. And then the Lakers sweep to the Western Conference Finals or something. It's like we're going to have to start if the Chiefs beat the Ravens, we're really going to have to start wondering about this whole Chiefs turning it on in the playoffs thing, because 2 of their top 4 games of the year, this was their best game of the year by DVOA.
Right.
And 2 of their top 4 games of the year are the last 2 games.
I mean, I would push back on the model and the NBA thing, because I think playoff LeBron and et cetera comes from that NBA culture of, it's a road game on January and Tuesday. Right. And we're resting these guys, and some of the guys are kind of not. And you're specifically planning for that. You can't really do that in the NFL in any way. But let's get there first. Let's get to that. The Chiefs winning next week, because I don't see it.
You don't think the Chiefs are going to win this one?
I don't think so. I've seen Patrick Mahomes lose playoff games and Super Bowls and things. It is possible. It is not impossible to do. And the Ravens just look like a much stronger team right now.
The Chiefs, I think they're going to have trouble stopping Lamar Jackson on designed runs and scrambles.
As we saw yesterday.
I think they're going to blitz him incessantly.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Lamar not as good against the blitz this year. Plus Steve Spagnuolo equals a lot. Equals a lot of blitzing. The Texans blitzed him more than they'd blitzed anybody all year.
yes. And they countered in the second half, at the beginning of the second half, with lots of short, quick game, which we never saw like a successful quick game years ago back from Lamar. We saw a successful quick game and then mixed in designed runs. And
I'll add that Mark Andrews is probably going to be back next week.
Yep.
And Isaiah likely is been very good this year. Very good.
That 2 tight end approach can be scary. They could put together a 12 package that is going to be absolutely difficult for a team that loves being in nickel and dime.
Bill Houston says the Chiefs' offense certainly looks better in the last 2 games than it has all season. And that gets to sort of what I think is the big variable in this game, which is who's going to catch the ball.
Yes.
Right early in the season, the Ravens receivers had problems catching the ball. And then all season, the Chiefs, Marquez Valdez-Scantling had 2 big plays. And we were all like, wow, Marquez Valdez-Scantling didn't drop one of those plays? Like, how does that? Yeah. How is it Stephon Diggs dropping passes instead of Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Bill also points out Willie Gay is probably done, and Joe Thuney is injured.
That's big. Both are big. I kind of spaced on the Gay injury. I saw the Thuney injury. So yeah, and you're going against a generally healthy. I don't know Marlon Humphreys' status, but you're going.
Yeah, but there's a good chance Humphrey, I think, is back next week.
Right, and I'm guessing Andrews is back.
And with the Chiefs, you just basically have to cover Rashee. Yes, Valdez-Scantling could catch the ball, but Rashee Rice is the guy you need to cover right now. And if they have Humphrey and they can have him on Rashee Rice, that's pretty darn good.
And you got to get Pacheco on first contact. You can't let it be the game of 6.
I think my heart and my brain says the Ravens are just much better this year.
Yeah.
And my heart says, oh God, no, Mahomes, here we go.
I feel good that we're past the Lamar narrative, because I can't imagine trying to regurgitate the Lamar narrative next week. You didn't beat Patrick Mahomes. So I'm happy we're there. And I think that everything you said about the Ravens at this point has been justified. I don't think anybody's looking at that and saying, what a weird choice, the Baltimore Ravens #1 in DVOA. So what happens in this game happens. I'd love to get to the Super Bowl and be covering a new team in the Baltimore Ravens. So
I will say I did my prediction before this weekend's games was that Baltimore and San Francisco, one of them would lose before the Super Bowl and the other one would win the Super Bowl. And I think if I'm right, the one that would lose would be the Ravens.
Yeah.
Because it's a harder matchup.
Yeah.
So let's start talking about the NFC.
Okay.
49ers and Packers, only a 56.5% post-game win expectancy for the 49ers in this game. Purdy and Love were both off in this game, but this was definitely, all respect to David Lombardi from The Athletic, who covers the 49ers, and talking about Purdy. He's been like the greatest of Purdy supporters all season, and talking about this Purdy did lead a drive at the end, and that is what legendary quarterbacks do, but legendary quarterbacks are a lot better in the first 50 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Than Purdy was in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. The copium that he's not Garoppolo. He's not Garoppolo. He's not Garoppolo.
Huh? He's not Garoppolo.
He looked like Garoppolo like yesterday. He's not.
But he's better than Garoppolo, but he's not. He doesn't. You're talking about the actual quality of the play. It doesn't belong with Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and
even Jared Goff. And even Jared Goff yesterday. And there's the Purdy. See, 49ers fans aren't satisfied by saying your team is great and you're going to the Super Bowl. They've got to get this Purdy thing going.
Yeah, it reminds me of Patriots fans in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
Okay. Before Brady became Brady in 2004, Patriots fans had to insist that Brady was a top quarterback when he clearly was not one until 2004.
Right. And that'll work one time in history, and then the other 4 or 5 times, maybe you should be happy with what you're getting, which is going to the Super Bowl and being favorites to reach the Super Bowl. Right.
And I wonder how much the win quiets us about the Kyle Shanahan clock management.
It was bad.
End of the first half was awful. Like, I joked that everybody on Twitter managed the clock better than him. And I didn't mean that everybody on Twitter claimed to manage the clock better than him.
Right.
I mean that they did.
Right.
He was so scared of the Packers scoring that he was like, well, we'll just take a long field goal, I guess.
Right. That was very strange. Did better, obviously, at the end of the game there. Although the Packers do get the ball back with a minute 20
right.
on that.
Right. And then Love throws the pick. But
yeah, you get nitpicky at that level there along the way. But no, that's still an issue. The special teams are still an issue. But this is just a strong top to bottom team with a lot of margin for error.
And they'll take on the Lions. So Lions, Buccaneers, it feels like, even though the Ravens won by a larger margin, it feels like Lions, Buccaneers is the game with the least amount to talk about.
It looks like the Lions had a wonderful season, and hooray for the Lions. And good luck in 2024.
It's a lot like the 1991 Lions, I think, where the 1991 Lions went to the NFC Championship game, and that was great. And they had a really nice season, but they ran into a buzzsaw that destroyed them.
Yes, Washington that year.
And I think the Lions are good. I think they did some good things in this game. Jahmyr Gibbs looked great. Amon-Ra St. Brown looks great. Goff, they manage him well, and he does great things in that offense, and throwing over the middle of the field is fantastic. Congratulations. Now you get to play Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have fun with the throwing over the middle of the field.
Yes. Just finding your rookie with a big brace on his leg over the middle is not going to be as easy this time. And they don't have a perimeter downfield game at all, really. They're perimeter.
Right. It's because Jamison Williams is just, it's hope that Josh Reynolds can do it, because Jamison Williams has just not developed as a receiver.
And even that's not like your boundary guy 15, 20 yards down the field. He's like a middle guy, slot guy by trade.
So I think the questions about the NFC Championship, we're talking here about can the Lions throw down the middle against the 49ers? I think Amon-Ra St. Brown does have an advantage in the slot against Ambry Thomas. But if he's going over the middle of the field, what if they're playing zone and then it's Warner and Greenlaw? Like, can some of it is, can St. Brown do more on the outside?
Yeah, I think he can. I've never seen him on the boundary down the field do much. It's just not his game. They've opened up more deep opportunities for him. It's usually deep middle. That's generally what I see from him. And
then can the 49ers get to Jared Goff with four guys? Because Brian Knowles and Scott Spratt wrote the NFC divisional preview articles, and Scott said in his article, pointed out that Goff was pretty good if he was pressured by a blitz, but if you pressure him with four, that's when his numbers go down.
Now, of course, when you say that, that means that you have a defense strong enough to pressure a great offensive line with four guys. So there's
a great offensive line that will be without one of its great guys. Jonah Jackson is not going, I doubt, going to be ready.
Jackson is out, and Ragnar will be out there playing with every kind of shot in his body to keep going. But that's the built-in bias in the numbers there. We're saying, well, yeah, they were able to pressure him with four. That usually means the defense has a big advantage. But I just want to flip to the other side of the ball here is like, who on the Lions will cover anybody on the 49ers at all?
That's
at any time.
That's the problem. Even without Debo, and they're saying Debo is 50-50 to play.
Yeah.
But even without Debo, who on the Lions is covering? Like Hutchinson will beat. Hutchinson will line up on the left side. He'll be up against McKivitz. He will beat McKivitz. Right? Like I'm not going to be shocked if there's a Hutchinson beats McKivitz, hits Purdy's arm and the interception, right? Like if there's one of those, Right. But who from the Lions is covering and tackling the Lions run defense has been strong, but when McCaffrey gets out there on a lot, on Alex Anzalone or something in the passing game, that's not a good thing.
Well, I did it in my messenger preview. The Lions actually in pressure rate led the NFL in pressure rate, according to Pro Football Reference. Other sources may vary. They provided a lot of pressures. Now, of course, part of that is you say, well, it's Justin Fields that you face, and you face these Vikings quarterbacks. A lot of times the pressure was solvable. It was a solvable problem for the opposing quarterbacks because it was Aiden Hutchinson screaming off the side, You can step up with it, you can step away from it, you can roll away from it, and there's enough open receivers downfield that you got a hand in the face, you can get it down there. It's not a good matchup when you're facing a team, A, that can just roll to the left or slide to the left behind Trent Williams, B, could put an extra blocker on Hutchinson, C, D, E, all the solutions that the 49ers are going to have.
So I believe that the line is 7 for the 49ers and 3 or 3.5 for the Ravens.
I am leaning towards the 9. I'll keep an eye on Debo. I might take it early so that, like, I'm assuming Debo will play. I'll check the weather forecast so there's not a little drizzle. Got to watch those little drizzles, San Francisco. But I'm leaning on the 49ers to win outright and cover right now.
I believe that the weather is for a sunny day next Sunday.
Beautiful. The other game, I could lean Chiefs to cover because I don't like Ravens plus a field goal in any situation. And Chiefs as dogs?
Right. That's my feel. Is like, my numbers are like Ravens. Ravens have been dramatically good this year. Just incredible against all the best teams on their schedule. And yet you just feel like Kansas City. What if Kansas City has finally gotten it? Even though I think Kansas City finally got it, is the effect of basically that Valdez-Scantling caught a couple balls. Right. The difference between Kansas City's finally. Mahomes has been playing this well all year. It's just he didn't have the help.
Right. They got it in that the first time Mecole Hardman fumbled, the Bills didn't recover, so they didn't have 2 mistakes in the end zone. They only had the 1. So yeah, that's getting it at this point.
All right, that does it for today's show. Thanks to everybody who was watching and commenting. Thanks to everybody listening to us afterwards on the podcast. Don't forget to read Mike at themessenger.com and read my stuff at ftnfantasy.com/DVOA. We will be back Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, and then we will have a more detailed preview of the 2 conference championship games. So join us then, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, or on the podcast feed. Until then, Mike and I thank you, and we'll talk to you guys later.